Once upon a time, in a place far beyond the edge of the known world, there was a giant who lived among the clouds. His name was Elyon, and he was a creature of great size and gentle spirit. He was older than the oldest mountains, and taller than the tallest trees. Elyon had no companions, for he lived in a land where no other giant existed, and no other living being came close to him in size. The animals of the earth and the birds of the sky were far too small to converse with him. The trees grew so far below him that their leaves seemed like tiny specks of dust. He lived high in the heavens in a palace built from the softest clouds and the brightest winds. Yet despite all the beauty of his home, Elyon was lonely. He wandered among the skies, catching the breezes, feeling the sun warm his skin during the day. But when the night fell, a deep sadness would settle in his heart. For Elyon, the night was both a time of peace and sorrow. It was peaceful because the world below him would quieten, and he could hear the soft whispers of the wind across the expanse of the land. But it was sorrowful too, for the dark sky made him feel small. The stars which twinkled brightly were so far away, and they made him feel as though he were an outsider in his own home. And every night the stars would fall. It was a strange thing, the stars. They were beautiful to behold, casting their soft glow upon the earth, yet they were always falling. They would slip from their place in the sky, twinkling as they descended, as if they were rushing to some destination unknown. Elyon had watched them for years, but it was only on one particularly still night that he noticed something alarming. When the stars fell, they didn't always return to their place in the sky. Some vanished completely. Others flickered, weakened, and disappeared into the void. The night would grow darker, and Elyon's heart would fill with dread. He didn't know why the stars fell, or where they went, but he knew one thing for sure. If the stars fell and did not return, the night sky would be swallowed by darkness forever. Without the stars, the world below would be consumed by shadows. Elyon could not let that happen. He couldn't bear the thought of the world being shrouded in darkness, a place where dreams and stories could no longer be born. And so, on the night the stars began to fall faster than usual, Elyon made a decision. He would catch the stars. He would hold them in his great hands and return them to the sky, no matter the cost. As the first star plummeted from its place in the heavens, Elyon reached out with a hand as wide as a mountain. His fingers were strong and nimble, and with a gentle touch he caught the star. It was warm in his palm, its glow soft and radiant. But as he held it, the light of the star began to flicker. Elyon frowned. "Elyon, I must keep you safe so you may shine again." He gently cradled the star in his hand and began to climb, rising from his home among the clouds. He moved with great care, for he didn't want to hurt the star or the night. He climbed higher than the mountains of the earth, higher than the storms that raged far below. His eyes shone with determination as he reached the highest peak of the sky, a place where the stars seemed so close that he could almost touch them. With the star still glowing softly in his hand, Elyon carefully placed it back in the night sky where it belonged. As soon as the star touched its place in the heavens, it flared with a brilliant light as though it had been waiting for this moment all along. Elyon smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest, a warmth he had never known before. But then, as he looked around, he noticed that many other stars were still falling. One after another they tumbled down, fading into the darkness. Elyon's heart sank. There were too many stars falling, and he could not catch them all. He would need help, someone, something to help him keep the night from falling into eternal darkness. The next night, Elyon began his task again. This time, however, he did not simply catch the stars, he watched them closely. As each one fell, he noticed something. The stars did not simply fall because they were weak or lost. No, each star was filled with its own story, its own dreams and memories. Elyon could feel them in the soft glow of their light, and he understood that the stars were alive in their own way. Each one had a journey, a purpose, and if they fell, they would not return unless they were set free again. And so Elyon worked through the night. He caught falling star after falling star, his giant hands moving with great care. With each star he placed it back into its place, returning its light to the sky. He knew that this was his purpose, to keep the night bright, to hold the stars in the sky for all the creatures below. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Elyon continued his tireless work, never resting, never stopping. The night sky remained as beautiful as ever, and the stars shone brightly. But no matter how many stars he returned to the sky, Elyon felt no less lonely. He realized that even though he kept the stars shining, something was missing, something deep inside of him. Then, one fateful evening, after a particularly long night of catching and returning the stars, Elyon paused to rest. He sat on a cloud, letting the wind brush against his face. He stared down at the world far below, where the oceans sparkled under the moonlight, and the mountains rose like great guardians of the earth. He thought about the creatures that lived down there, the birds, the wolves, the children, the trees, and he felt a deep yearning. He wished, more than anything, that he could visit them, talk to them, feel their warmth. But how could a giant like him ever belong in a world so small? How could he, the one who held up the stars, ever be a part of such a tiny world? As Elyon sat in his loneliness, something unexpected happened. A star, one of the brightest he had ever seen, fell from the sky. It tumbled down faster than any other, its light glowing fiercely. Elyon quickly reached out to catch it, but as soon as it touched his hand, it seemed to pulse with an energy that was not his own. It was as though the star had a voice, a song that only the giant could hear. Elyon's heart stirred with wonder. He held the star carefully, cradling it close to his chest, and for the first time in years, he felt a spark of hope. The star was not just a light to be placed in the sky, it was alive, full of energy, full of life. And suddenly Elyon understood. The stars were not only his responsibility, they were a reminder that he was part of something larger, something beyond himself. As the star glowed in his hand, it whispered to him in a language only his heart could understand. It told him that the stars were not meant to be alone, nor was he. The stars had fallen, but they would always rise again, just as he would rise from his loneliness. Elyon smiled as he placed the star back into the sky. It flared brightly, joining its brothers and sisters in the night, and for the first time Elyon didn't feel alone. He knew that no matter how many stars fell, he would always be there to catch them. And more than that, he realized that the stars were not just his to keep. They were a part of the world, and so was he. From that night onward, Elyon continued his work with joy in his heart. He caught the stars, he returned them to the sky, but he no longer felt the ache of loneliness. He knew that his purpose was to keep the night sky alive, and in doing so, he had found his place in the world. And as the years passed, Elyon's story became legend. The people of the earth would look up at the stars and tell tales of the great giant who held up the night. They would say that if you looked closely at the stars, you could see his gentle hands guiding them home, keeping the sky bright for all to see. And so the stars continued to fall and rise, and the world below continued to dream beneath the endless sky, always knowing that they were never truly alone.